Hello everyone in Oneness, thank you so much for watching this video. I am Jessica Delmar, and in this video we're going to be talking more about these steps, or rather guiding steps, to achieving 5D enlightenment. In other words, entering the vortex of oneness. So the last video that we did, I'll put a link to that video below, but we spoke about the first, I want to say 3 or 4 steps, but that information kind of came through just by tapping in and bringing that information through and speaking. After that video, I kind of sat down and brought through information the way I usually bring through information, which is in writing. And it kind of unfolded more of these steps, a more well-rounded view of these steps. So in this video, I'm going to go through beginning at the beginning and kind of going back over the first few steps and then continuing on from there, because I'll just read through what came through in writing, because it's usually a little bit more clear. It's with more organization in writing, and it'll just build upon what came through in the last video. Usually at this time, it's early December, I would do a December Ascension energy video, but this is the information that came through for December, and this information is coming through right now because this is where you are. You're ready to hear these steps. You're on this path of moving through these steps in order to attain that 5D enlightenment. That's just around the corner, but we're on that path and we're moving there as a collective. But rather, we're moving there as these sort of way showers of light workers and light holders that are at the forefront, the leading edge, opening the doors into 5D New Earth. And so these steps that came through very much align with where we are on our path right now, and more of a conscious reminder of how to stay and maintain this space of moving into that 5D consciousness, which encompasses more of that oneness consciousness. And it is not an overnight thing. It is a constant practice. It's a constant stretching of the muscle, or strengthening of the muscle, in order to then finally stay and maintain that center balance of 5D. But right now we're very much moving in between that 3D and 5D, 3D, 5D portal, if you will. But along that journey, we really have to strengthen the muscles of where we want to go. So like I said in the last video, we spoke about the first few steps, but I'm going to go through it again and read what came through. Again, this is about entering the vortex of oneness, guiding steps to achieving 5D enlightenment. So step 1 is about conscious recognition in your now moment. This is all about stopping the momentum of what may be of lower vibration or of 3D vibration. Finding recognition and awareness of being in the vibrational state as you are there, meaning you are consciously aware in each of your now moments. This is about becoming more connected to where you are vibrationally in your now moment. The consciousness shift is recognizing and realizing that you are having a physical experience, not as a physical being, but as a spiritual being, and connected to a divine inner being that desires to move through you to be expressed. This is all about recognition in your now moment. This is about being present. This is about being conscious. So recognizing that everything that you are experiencing is a divine connection to your divine inner being. Being more conscious and aware in your now moment opens you up to be able to stop the momentum of 3D energy, which is usually rooted in emotion. Stopping the momentum means to step away or open space between you and that which is cycling any sort of 3D or lower vibrational thought forms, emotions, experiences, situations, or energy. Stepping away or creating space means that you have to soothe yourself into a place of energetic non-attachment to that emotion, person, place, thing, situation, or experience. The energy of neutrality is the doorway into the vortex of oneness, because it establishes an energetic non-attachment to what is. Meaning, again, that this step 1 is all about recognizing your now moment and staying present in your now moment. And if you're in a higher vibrational 5D space, then this really is strengthened for you. You're able to stay in that space longer. You're able to really be present in your now moment, which is so important in the 5D space. But at the same time, you can bring that into a 3D or 4D space as well in your journey of strengthening your muscle, like we said. So this is about understanding, okay, I'm bringing 5D into where I am. We're strengthening the muscle, becoming more present in my now moment, recognizing my now moment, being more conscious here and now. And so what it does for you is it opens up these doorways to connect further and further into 5D. But in order to do that, what happens is everything that no longer serves you in your now moment is going to be exposed and unveiled to you. So any sort of 3D emotions or lower vibrational emotions, experiences, people, places, things that may show up for you, you're going to become more conscious and aware of it as it presents itself to you in your reality. This is all part of strengthening that now moment. And so as these things start coming into your experience, then you're able to sort of approach each and every one of these hurdles, if you will, and go through these steps in order to transmute out of that 3D vibration and into a higher vibration in your now moment. So this then leads me into step 2, which is moving from that present recognition of your now moment into the neutrality zone, which is simply just a heightened perspective or a bird's eye view. Opening up the greater perspective of heightened consciousness into where you are. This is not necessarily oneness consciousness, but just a heightened consciousness that goes beyond the illusionary box of 3D consciousness. So you're stepping back, you're opening up space, you're seeing with this higher perspective, this greater perspective, this bird's eye view. And that allows you to see the bigger picture. It also allows that stream of higher consciousness, which could technically be connected to that oneness consciousness, to move through you at the same time. This is about taking a step back from the situation you may find yourself in, where you're struggling or in duality or 3D consciousness or emotion or behavior. And this is about taking a step back into what I like to call going back to the drawing board. This is taking a step back into a space of non-attachment so that you can see with that greater perspective and be able to understand the greater purpose or the greater picture that's unfolding for you. You see the greater puzzle pieces, including the roles of everyone involved, as well as the past, current, and future energies involved as well. You're also able to see how there is opportunity for expansion in any situation or experience. The zone of neutrality opens for the greater perspective to be realized. It cannot necessarily be realized when you are in the trenches of the physical vibrational experience, especially if you're in lower vibration, which is why you have to lift up into a heightened perspective, into that non-attachment neutrality zone place first, and then be able to see the bigger picture. It puts you into the driver's seat by seeing with the eyes of source, or rather the eyes of greater perspective, the bird's eye view, and the lens of your divine inner being. Basically, you're seeing with that heightened perspective and not from the ground level. You're not seeing from the physical space that you were in that sort of attachment, physical reality. And so from the driver's seat, you can shift the underlying energy of your duality experience in the physical. So this is not about paying attention to what is regarding that duality experience, that physical experience of what may not be working out for you, for example. But this is about paying attention to what is regarding the many different puzzle pieces and the bigger picture to help you understand why things are playing out and where the expansion is to be found. So this heightened perspective, this greater perspective bird's eye view, this place of that neutrality zone offers many different layers of opportunity for you to work with or work in. Again, it's not a physical stepping back of your situation, but it is an energetic stepping back that allows you to open up space. It opens up a breathing space, I like to call it a space that I go to go back to the drawing board, or a blank white room, if you will. It's a great space to connect to when you meditate or need to rest away from the energy of your direct reality. But it offers a sort of safe or sacred space for you to strengthen your energy, for you to reset your energy, recharge, clear and cleanse your energy, etc., etc. It's also a great space to gather your thoughts, to gather inspiration, ideas, and to connect to your higher self or seek your divine spirit guidance. It strengthens your ability to open space between you and whatever 3D situation, person, place, or thing that may be causing you to lose your marbles in, for example. So this neutrality zone, and we've said this before, where the term neutrality zone may not be the best term to use, but it's kind of what's coming through right now in terms of what to describe this sort of energetic space. But what's coming through right now is it's kind of like, the frequency and vibration of the planet is in a whole different space now than it was, for example, 10 years ago, or definitely in a different place than it was 20 years ago. We are in a higher vibrational space. So the way that we connect to our higher self, for example, or the way that we connect to our divine spirit guidance team or our divine inner being is in a different space now. It's like before, even if you take meditation, before, in order to get into those deep states of meditation, a person really needed to dive deep. They needed to kind of turn off everything and dig deep within themselves and get to this place of no mind or no thought. But now, even meditation has evolved to where, in my meditations and when I first started meditating, I could never get to a place of no thought. It was always a very open dialogue within my meditations where I was conversing with my higher self, and that was my meditation. It's like I centered myself into this neutrality zone in kind of taking a step back, allowing for that open space, being in this sacred space where I can dive deep within myself, but still be very conscious about it, still be able to connect and receive more focused and streamlined information or bigger pieces of information. And so my meditations have always been sort of active like that, if you will. And I've been noticing it in a lot more other people that I've been talking to, in terms of meditation being more of an open dialogue space for you to sit with yourself and receive that divine guidance. The same sort of evolution happened with QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique, in terms of Dolores Cannon when she was first working with people, 30 plus years ago, 40 plus years ago. Her clients needed to get into this place where they would often not be conscious of the information flowing through them. And now, for people who do quantum healing hypnosis and do past life regression, it's much easier for people to bring forward information and connect to their higher self in a conscious state, in a very relaxed state, but a conscious state. And this very relaxed state is sort of this neutrality zone where you're able to take a step back and see everything from that bigger picture and sort of see all the different puzzle pieces and connect and still be in that place to connect on much deeper levels. When you take a step into this neutrality zone, you become this open vessel for higher states of consciousness to move through you and connect to you, because you don't have that sticky duality energy to prevent your ability to make that connection. And so this neutrality space, this neutrality zone here in step 2 is not necessarily, it's a great place to be and to move into if you find yourself in duality and experiencing something you don't want to experience, and you need to see the bigger picture and try to make understanding out of it. But it's also a great place to move into, even if you're not going through a difficult situation. Again, it's like if you want a meditative space, if you want a place to connect, this neutrality zone is that perfect sacred space to connect to your divine inner guidance. The neutrality zone, when in non-attachment, is a great space for you to connect to the energy flow that comes from life force energy itself. So you're not connecting to energy manifested already on the physical plane or collective energy that can often be very draining. So when you're in a physical experience in your here and now, a person in the unconscious state is oftentimes playing with energy that is in a way recycled. It's already manifested energy. It is energy that the person sees in front of them in a manifested form and then cycles that energy based upon their focus and attention to it, or their response to the collective energy playing out. So when you're able to take a step back from that physical plane energy, then you step into the neutrality zone where you now have access to a higher state of energy. So just think of like if you're on a physical planet and you're taking a step back into the neutrality zone energetically, it's like you're no longer on the physical planet, but you're now kind of like in the clouds or above the clouds. You have clearer energy. It's like new energy. You're able to tap into this new source of energy that's not so dense on the physical plane. And so the neutrality zone, like we said, it offers you the space to pour forth or to tap into higher states of consciousness that go beyond where you are in the clouds or beyond the clouds. You just have this clearer space to be a clearer vessel to allow for that energy to move through you. And it also depends upon your vibration being held in this neutrality zone in terms of the other layers of consciousness, of expanded consciousness that's able to move through you, or layers of that life force energy that you're able to bring forth. And being in the neutrality zone does not necessarily have to happen in a hypnosis session or meditation. It can happen anywhere at any time. It's just your ability to come back into center, find your balance, find your focus within rather than focusing on the things outside of you, the external things, bringing that focus back inward. And that's when you're able to connect to your neutrality zone, to that center point, that balance point within. So for a lot of people, yes, it happens during meditation because you're creating that space for yourself to connect within. But moving forward, this is a space that is not only meant to happen or to be accessed in meditation. This is supposed to be your natural state. This is supposed to be your natural resting state, if you will. So it should be open for you when you're having conversations, when you're going about doing your errands or whatever, when you're interacting with other people, when you're working, whatever, you're supposed to be in this natural state. But we're just in this in-between place where we're moving into that place. So being able to grab hold of this neutrality zone state is something that we are sort of strengthening our muscles in right now. So we're able to pull it in as much as we can throughout the day so that we can strengthen our muscles, so that we can strengthen where we are in that center point so that it can open up more and more for us. And also, if you want to get even deeper into this neutrality zone, the neutrality zone is a very, very open, very vast zone, very vast space. It can open up into many, many different layers of perspective. So this can also go back, for example, into quantum healing hypnosis or beyond quantum healing. So when I used to practice and when I used to work with clients, me as a practitioner, I would notice this different layers that the client would be tapping into. And it's not necessarily, now it's sort of becoming a little bit more clear in terms of the space that a client would go into to access their higher self. So there would be times when a client would go into, you'd go into this meditative space, relaxed space, in order to bring forward that higher self aspect of you, to bring forward the information that you're desiring to know. But there were some clients that maybe could only access higher aspect information regarding their direct reality, regarding their direct experiences. And this was sort of that higher self aspect. There were other people that could access maybe other aspects of them, galactic beings, angelic beings, and ascended masters, etc., etc. There are other people who could access greater pieces of information that stemmed into galactic and universal information. It's like that bird's eye view got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so this kind of is connecting me back to that same kind of stream of thought, that same stream of where that client was in that client's ability to be in that neutrality zone and bring forth whatever layer of that neutrality zone they could access. Because again, it depends upon your vibration. When you enter into this neutrality zone, if your vibration is still maybe vibrating closer to the physical experience, you may not necessarily be able to open up into those higher layers of perspective. But if you have more of a higher vibration and more of an openness, then you're able to receive higher layers of that greater perspective. So this is how a person is able to receive their information when you enter into this neutrality zone. You're able to receive guidance from all of these many different layers of perspective, whether it's your higher self, which is closer to you, knows more about you, or if it's higher layers of perspective that knows more universal Akashic information, past life information, or whatever. So as you raise your vibration and as you expand your consciousness, when you enter into the neutrality zone, you're able to access higher or more expanded layers of that perspective because you're more open. You open up more and more and more. And also, to add to the depth of the neutrality zone can also be a space, or like a meditative space, or just a being space of just being. It is you just being in your alignment, in ease and flow, surrender, meaning you're just in a state of non-resistance. You are just being. You just are. It is. You don't have to utilize the neutrality zone to see these greater perspectives, to try to understand, although it's available for you. But the state of just being in non-resistance, that state of peace, inner peace, balance, ease, flow, is kind of like the portal almost between step 1 and step 2. It is the state of allowing the cork to float, stopping the momentum of holding the cork under the water so that the cork can float, so that you can just understand what it feels like and be in a state of non-resistance. And there's so much power in that too, for you to dramatically shift energy. So this now moves me into step 3. And in step 3, we're now directing energy and making intentions from the neutrality zone. So this is about milking your alignment and flow while you're in the neutrality zone. So step 2 is all about opening and discovering this neutrality zone and seeing with that greater perspective, understanding with that greater perspective, that bird's eye view. Step 3 now is about bringing forth intentions, bringing forth kind of emotion, not necessarily emotion, but feeling in the neutrality zone. Because feeling in the neutrality zone is not necessarily emotion. Feeling in the neutrality zone is a feeling of alignment and flow and balance and everything working out for you. And that is the feeling that you want to connect to and milk and make your intentions from. So step 3 now is about directing energy and playing with energy from the zone of neutrality. But here you move into another layer energetically, meaning in step 2, you see with the greater perspective in order to reach understanding of what may be going on in your physical experience. But step 3 now is about being in the neutrality zone, but pulling energy in from a higher source of life force energy or that higher, greater, expanded consciousness. Meaning, again, you're not playing with physical energy already manifested on the physical plane, but you are directly tapping into life force energy. You're directly tapping into more expanded consciousness that cannot necessarily be accessed if you're in the trenches of that physical space that may still be cycling old energy. And so you make your intentions from this neutrality zone to shift energy at the core, the seed of thought within you, rather than on the physical surface level when you're playing with recycled energy. The reason why you don't really want to make your intentions from the physical plane with that recycled energy is because on that physical surface level energy, your intentions and what you want may not necessarily align with the vibration and the emotions that you're experiencing on that physical plane reality. For example, if you're going through a very undesirable situation and you say, I don't want to be in this undesirable situation, I want to be someplace desirable. Your intention of being someplace desirable will not match or align with you feeling like you're in an undesirable place or situation. And so that's a huge push and pull in and of itself that prevents your desire or your intention from manifesting for you in your desired way. And so this is why moving or stepping into the neutrality zone and opening up greater perspective helps to then shift the energy into where you want it to go. And you're able to strongly and vibrationally align to your intention because you've taken a step back. You don't have attachment to those emotions on that physical level. This is, for example, going back to say you're experiencing something undesirable in the physical and you take a step back into the neutrality zone and you see with this greater perspective, this is really playing with the seed of thought of your experience that you're going through on that physical layer. Meaning, for example, if you're going through an undesirable situation, maybe between you and a partner, and you take a step back into the neutrality zone, you're able to understand what's going on in this situation between you and your partner, why things are not working out for you. You understand where the energy is feeding from into that relationship. You understand what's being cycled, the energy being cycled. You can see where you both were, where you both are, and where you both are going. You can see where your partner, all the energy that comes from your partner and is manifested in that physical experience, and all the energy that comes from you and maybe your past or your partner's past and manifesting in that experience. And so you get this greater understanding so that you're now playing with the seed of thought that not only is about focusing on that direct experience, but now you're going back into past, maybe your past experiences or your past lives or whatever energy is all converging into this physical experience that's manifesting as an undesirable situation between you and your partner. And you're shifting that is all underlying energy, and you're shifting all of that underlying energy, which is a huge network, a huge web of energy, and you're shifting that energy with the seed of thought when you're able to step into this neutrality zone. So everything is connected in that web of energy that is all converging in this undesirable situation that you've stepped away from into the neutrality zone. And so by shifting that seed of thought, it ripple effects out throughout the entire web and affects not only the way that the situation is playing out between you and your partner, but everything, all of the energy that you see from that greater bird's eye view, it's affecting everything. So this is an important place to be, that neutrality zone, and shifting seeds of thought through your intention in that neutrality zone, especially when you're struggling with 3D programs, patterns, and belief systems. When you feel yourself struggling with those 3D lower vibrational programs in the physical, step out into the neutrality zone and work through it from the neutrality zone. And then shift the energy at the core, the seed of thought, from the neutrality zone. Eventually, the manifestations and ripple effects of your core energy shifts will begin to bleed through into your reality in how those old 3D programs show up for you. Meaning, for example, in the example with the undesirable situation between you and a partner, for example, by shifting the seed of thought, by taking a step back, shifting the seed of thought and allowing for it to manifest in perfect unfolding for you and that situation. Again, it may not manifest right then and there, but the ripple effects will be felt in physical manifestation in perfect unfolding, so that as maybe moving forward, further situations or future situations between you and your partner, if things come up, energy is going to be shifted, whether it's you being more conscious of being in that situation with your partner, and so shifting energy before it escalates, or something's going to shift between you and your partner. It has to, because you shifted the energy from the seat of thought. It may take a few tries. Again, you strengthening the muscle. It may take a few tries in order for energy to fully shift, but it will begin transitioning. This step 3 is also a step that you can directly go to when you do feel alignment, balance, ease, and flow. So it doesn't necessarily, again, just like the neutrality zone, you don't have to enter the neutrality zone just because something undesirable is happening for you. You can enter the neutrality zone whenever you want to, because again, we're moving into 5D where this neutrality zone is just going to be your center balance state. And so when you do feel alignment, balance, ease, and flow, that is energy, again, directly in alignment, in sync with the neutrality zone. I recently had a conversation with someone who said, I know what ease and flow and synchronicity and alignment and balance feels like. I feel it every time the new moon shows up. But then, a few days later, when the moon starts to wax and open, then I feel the density start creeping in, this physical heavy density, and the alignment and the balance and the flow and the synchronicities are gone for the rest of the moon cycle. And she said, it's like there's a well-oiled cog machine going perfectly in sync. It's moving in flow, but then a pebble is thrown in and it ruins the whole machine the way that it was working. And we said in reply, you know what ease and flow and synchronicity and alignment and balance feels like. The new moon is a blessing for you because it offers a space of clarity and openness for you to tap into heightened states of your being. It's like the new moon opens you a glimpse or a window into the neutrality zone. But you are a physical being, and that means that you still exist in a physical experience. So, alignment is not just about feeling alignment and balance when the physical presents openness and clarity, but feeling alignment regardless of what the physical is presenting, whether what we would think of as good or bad. If you're able to reach those states of balance and alignment for the most part, even during the chaos and the density, then you are achieving a layer of the self-mastery journey you are on. You are not meant to do the yo-yo dance, the high-low, 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 high-low. You are meant to hold steady and be the pillar of light in both the dark and the light. But even the pebble interrupting your well-oiled and in-sync cog machine has a purpose, and that purpose is to help you strengthen your balance. You are honing and tuning your ability to stay steady. And how do you best do that but to strengthen your muscles? You are not meant to do the yo-yo dance, but sometimes that is what is needed in order for you to understand what center means and feels for you. For many of you, you're still doing the yo-yo dance between 3D and 5D, and your inner compass is going haywire. It jumps from 3D to 5D to 3D to 5D to 3D to 5D, and back and forth, back and forth. But the purpose of the pebble is not to throw you off and have you downward spiral all the way back down to 3D. The purpose of the pebble is to trip you up a little bit so that you can calibrate your own inner compass, so that you can understand what it feels like to fall off the wagon and strengthen your muscle of getting back on the wagon. The purpose of the pebble is to be an opportunity for expansion and to strengthen your ability to balance or to find your way back to balance and to strengthen your inner truth. Remember, in knowing what you do not want, you strongly know what you do want. So, how do you maintain the centered feeling and vibration of alignment and balance? You know what it feels like when you are feeling it. So, when you're feeling it, that means that you are closer in alignment to the divine inner being. Like we said, many of you toggle between 3D and 5D vibration. When you are in 5D vibration, milk it. You are in step 3 because you feel the clarity, you feel the connection, you feel your divine alignment and balance, and everything is manifesting in alignment to the way that you are feeling. With clarity comes greater understanding. So you can easily see the bird's eye view of step 2 of being in that neutrality zone. You can easily see the greater and bigger picture of understanding going on. With clarity, you can open up doors of deeper and deeper places of connection within. So the step 3 is about finding the clarity in this neutrality zone, feeling the alignment and the flow in this neutrality zone, and understanding what your balance and center state is for you. When you feel this clarity of step 3, this is when you milk your intention of what you desire your centered state be in the physical, or make your intention for whatever it is that you desire or whatever it is that you want to manifest in the physical. But in this case, we're bringing forth information about how do we maintain this centered state of alignment even in the physical. So in step 3, when you're milking that feeling, this is when you declare your knowledge of what centered, balance, north in the compass feels like or is. This is your center. This is your resting, balanced state. When you declare this and when you make this feeling of alignment your intention of your balanced state, of your resting, balanced state, this helps to tune your energy to knowing what this feeling of alignment is, what this feeling of centered balance is. And it's going to be stored in your storage bank or your inner program to bring you back to this centered space when you do not feel in alignment, when you do not feel in this centered balanced state. Meaning, this is the buoy on the ocean. You're not holding the buoy down underwater. You're allowing it to float. Meaning, this is the cork and the ocean. You're not holding the cork underwater because that doesn't feel like balance. It doesn't feel like your centered natural state of being. But when you release the cork and allow it to bob back up on the water, you know that's your ease and flow. You know that that is your state of non-resistance. You know that's your balance. You know that's your center. And you hold firm that that's your center. You strengthen that as your center, your resting, balanced state. Many of you toggle or yo-yo between 3D and 5D, low and high, in alignment and out of alignment. And your divine inner being is your center, that feeling of alignment. But until you know what that center is, you're going to keep toggling and yo-yoing until you find it. When you know and feel what your center is, claim it, declare it, intend for it to bring you back home to center when you are not in it or when you are lost. And you're going to be surprised that this intention will strengthen within you each time you find yourself here in step 3, so that your ability to bounce back to this centered state will become easier and easier. You're going to know immediately as soon as that cork you begin pulling it underwater, that it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like your resting center balanced state. So you're going to do what you can to release that cork and allow it to bob back up on the water because that feels right. That is your alignment state. That is your natural resting balanced state. And the more you do that, every time you even get the slightest sense that that cork is going under, it's every time that happens, you're strengthening your muscles. You're strengthening your ability to go back to your center. You're strengthening your ability to find north. You're strengthening your ability to always bounce back, so that you can hold that longer and longer and longer. When you feel the alignment of that well-oiled cog machine running smoothly, but then all of a sudden a pebble is thrown in, you're not going to feel the fall so hard. You're not going to feel like you're knocked off the horse so hard. You are going to feel a wobble, but you're going to be able to work your way out of the wobble faster and faster and more easily so that you don't stay in the wobble or you don't stay with that cork below the surface of the water. and you're not going to spiral so fast downhill. And because there's opportunity for expansion every time that pebble comes into that cog machine, you're going to, in your movement from wobble back into alignment, you're going to embrace the opportunity of expansion that the wobble has brought to you. When you feel this clarity of step 3, this is when you make your intentions for your physical experience because you're feeling in alignment. And with that feeling comes a boost of power to direct energy in the physical in alignment to what you're holding, that space that you're holding in alignment in the neutrality zone. Neutrality zone is not emotionless, but simply a space for you to open non-attachment in order to see the bigger picture and connect to greater energy outside of the physical manifested energy. Non-attachment is not emotionless, but simply not holding so tight to what emotions and energy and situations are being manifested for you. So that's the first 3 steps again. I'm sorry I'm repeating this, but I just thought that it would be good to put a video out reading what came through in writing, because again, writing is usually a lot more clear and focused and streamlined and more detailed. So I thought I'd share that. And this actually came through at the end of me recording basically 3 videos in describing these 7 steps to achieving 5D enlightenment. But at the very end, after the 7 steps, when I was recording what had come through, and it connected so perfectly in alignment to the 7 rays of light information that came through a little while ago. I'm going to put the link to the 7 rays of light video series below. But basically, you're going to start seeing, and I didn't realize this until the very end, that all of these steps perfectly align to the journey that the soul makes in the non-physical in alignment to the 7 rays of light and what we were talking about in the 7 rays of light. And basically, the 7 rays of light, if you want to brush up your memory and watch those videos again, that's sort of the journey of the physical and the non-physical coming back into alignment. Or it's the journey of the soul reaching into higher vibrations to really understand itself or to know itself. It's about source understanding itself, knowing itself again by going further inward, and reaching those higher states of vibrational recognition, I want to say. And basically the journey of the soul or the non-physical connecting on the journey with the physical so that these higher layers of consciousness or higher layers of vibrational recognition can be realized both in the physical and in the non-physical. And so I'm going to put up on the screen just the screenshot from that 7 Rays of Light video series, that target board. And the 7 Rays of Light in the target board is basically the journey of the soul and the non-physical moving from the outermost circle inward until it aligns back to source. And so the number 7 in the 7 Rays of Light very much aligns with step 1 because we're moving from the outermost layer inward. And so step 7 will ultimately align with number 1 in the 7 Rays of Light. And of course, it's, there's many different layers. So the 7 Rays of Light, I feel like, is on a huge, massive macro layer. And what's going on here in the 7 steps to achieving 5D enlightenment is very much really applying it into where we are right now, in our now moment, and how we move from 3D into 5D, because everything is a micro and a macro of each other. Our movement just in this specific moment of moving from 3D into 5D is affecting us on these huge macro levels of our soul, our non-physical, reuniting with Source itself, reuniting with knowing itself better, and doing whatever it's doing in the non-physical, aligning to us here in the physical. And then it's also aligning everything in the micro as well. So everything on a cellular level, everything is connected, everything is a ripple of each other. So after bringing forth all of these 7 steps, of course it's going to align back to something in terms of micro and macro that has already been brought forward. But it's interesting to see how these things are unfolding. And so keep this in mind for this video and moving forward over the next 2 videos as we make our way through these 7 steps to achieving 5D enlightenment in your here and now moment. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Together with you in Oneness, I am Jessica Delmar. Oneness and love be with you.